Hello and welcome to Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the show where we watch, review, and talk about every horror movie on Netflix. Back again this week, it's me, Chris, and I'm here with Patrick.
Hi, Chris.
And Steven.
Hello.
And back again, our very special guest from long ago, our guest from yesteryear, Allison with an I.
It me.
It's that girl, Allison.
Oh shit, it's that girl.
Long-time listeners might remember her. You were with us for Boys in the Trees. Mm-hmm. What else did you watch with us?
Oh, I don't remember. Why would I know that?
Cabin Fever?
Yeah.
Oh,
There you
yeah,
go.
Cabin
Thanks,
Fever.
Steven.
Cabin Fever?
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm sorry.
The one of the couple that you did. The first one.
Right.
And I didn't do Cabin Fever 2. Still haven't seen it. Don't plan on it.
Yeah, it was some heads up.
Did you listen to our episode, though? Because Chris and I did a fucking banger on it.
I did not.
Oh, wow.
If I do say so
Disappointing.
Well, today we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We watched Corbin Nash for this week, a great Netflix action horror thriller. Maybe not so great.
I mean, yeah, let's just be real up front. It's not so great, and that's why we're changing the format of the fucking show today.
Sure, we're changing the format of the show a little bit. We're going to talk about Corbin Nash, but there is literally really nothing to spoil about Corbin Nash because of the way that movie is structured. And
Because it
Can you
spoils
really
everything
call
in
it
the
structure?
first 10 fucking minutes.
yeah, it starts in media res, and there's one, you know where it's going from the beginning, and there's no twist, there's no anything. So we're still going to go to the spoiler room, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some of the other things that have been going on in the horror world this month. You know, we're halfway to Halloween, and we got Twilight Zone reboot coming out that we've been watching. We saw Us. We might talk about that. And we all just as a family went to see the new Pet Sematary, and we're all looking forward. We are chomping at the bit to talk about Pet Cemetery. I can feel it.
Trip.
We walked out of the theater and we said nothing. We said, we're going to talk about it on the show. So look forward to that after we get through our obligatory discussion of the Netflix film. It's not Corbin Nash. Not a Netflix film, but a film that is on Netflix.
A film that I wonder if it was released in any other format.
It was released VOD.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So somebody, theoretically, some people paid money just to see this film.
Yes, theoretically.
My heart goes out to them.
I mean, it's like Terrifier.
I have so many thoughts about this
You
film.
guys are being really hard on this film. I feel like I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'll
I want
say
to hear
my
what
thing.
you have to say.
You know, I think I'm on this quest lately with films where I'm trying to find the good in all of them.
That's good.
I have
Especially on this episode, because I think Steven and I at least are out for blood.
Oh, I can tell. I could smell it when I walked in the room. But I have a
So to
friend.
speak.
I have a friend who's a horror movie aficionado like the rest of us, but he's kind of my godfather horror movie aficionado. And the thing I love the most about him is no matter how shitty a movie, he would always say, I thought it was great. I thought it was great. And I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? It was garbage. But I always admired that about him. And so I've kind of without even trying, sort of adopted that mentality because I don't know why. You know, I have never made a movie, so fuck.
No,
this
they would
guy is
say,
better off
You could
than
make
me.
a better movie than this, though, with no
No.
skill
He would say,
whatsoever.
Allison, I'm gonna make you a horror movie. You can't refuse. You come in here and you say you didn't like the Babadook.
Why are we doing Godfather Italian voices?
Because you're
because we're 30-year-old men.
Okay, so I'm trying to be positive, guys.
That's
Kill
good.
me
That's
for
good.
it.
No.
I didn't hate it, and so I'm glad to bring that perspective to this episode.
I'm glad you're here. I didn't like it, but there are plenty of things I thought it did well. I'm willing to give
Let's
credit
hear
where
it.
it's due. Well, let's set up the premise a little bit.
Wait, can we start with the title?
Oh, yeah, this is one of my pet peeves, as you well know.
Oh,
Yes.
mine too. Why name a title after a fictional character we've never heard of before?
Yes, and this
don't
is a
understand
question
that.
I pose to all of you, and actually probably no one's inclined to answer this in a positive way. Is there any movie that's just named after a fictional character that no one has ever heard of before that is good?
Patch Adams.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, we
Forrest Gump.
Happy Gilmore.
Okay, Forrest Gump. I thought of this one.
Forrest Gump is a terrible film.
I hate Forrest Gump. Don't like that film.
God. You guys are the worst.
Forrest Gump is not a good film. We could get into that another time. Forrest Gump, though, I would say works as a title because it's such an odd name, and it kind of fits into the premise that he's like this sort of mystery ghost character in all these historical events. It kind of plays into the premise of the film. Like, oh yeah, you're supposed to know who Forrest Gump is because he's been at all these historical events.
Well, I got one.
That
for
one
you.
I will cut some slack.
Benjamin Button.
Corbin Nash?
Well, Benjamin Button gives
Corbin
you something.
Nash, I swear to God, when I read this title, I was sure it was a gay porn star. I looked it up. It's Corbin Blue.
Who are you thinking of?
Corbin Blue. Yeah, I have not been able to get this name straight all week. I've been like Corbin Nash, Corbin Blue, Corbin...
What about
Roger
Selson
Corman?
Blue.
Patrick, what about Michael Clayton?
Oh, good point. I love the film Michael Clayton, but that's a terrible title.
It's a
It's a terrible title.
I don't like the film, and I don't like the title.
Who knows who Michael Clayton is? Why do you want to go see that movie?
And really, there's so many movies and series that are just named after a bro, and
Yeah.
we're supposed to go see it because it's named after a bro.
Ray Donovan.
Ray Donovan. I'm still mad. John Carter bombed at the box office. And John Carter, like the actual name of the story was like John Carter and the Princess of Mars. Like,
Right.
call it that. And
John
I'm
Carter of
interested.
Mars.
Yeah. John Carter of Mars.
Well,
Do that.
and that one made the misstep of assuming that modern day audiences would give a fuck about a property that had its peak in the 40s? 50s?
Maybe even earlier than that. But
Yeah.
you know,
What about Carrie?
Ooh, that's a good point.
I think your theory has.
You know what? I'm more
holes in
interested
it.
in
I mean,
seeing
yeah,
the name
no,
of a woman.
I was trying to get examples of ones that do work and trying to figure out why the ones that do work. Probably because Carrie is actually a great movie and people went to see it because they heard it was good from their friends, and over time we've realized, oh yeah, Carrie's a great movie.
Aaron Brockovich.
I don't. Oh, yes,
But she was a real person,
Yeah.
yeah.
so she's not a fictional character.
W.
I think this horse is dead.
What about
do you think?
Excuse me,
Yeah, this
that's W to you.
W.
That's W to ya.
So we have a simple premise in Corbin Nash.
It's about a guy called Corbin Nash.
It's about a guy named Corbin Nash who's a cop, played by Dean S. Jagger, just the embodiment of toxic masculinity.
Yes. The phrase that ran through my head, my little Rotten Tomatoes poll quote as I watched this movie was a fever dream of toxic masculinity.
Yeah, you can smell the Axe
He has
body
his
spray.
last name tattooed on his chest in like
Yes.
the Johnny Cash font.
Yeah.
And then
Nash
Shooter
instead of Cash.
on his other
Yeah.
arm.
Oh, Shooter.
does
Did you like
he?
that, Chris?
Yeah,
Little
I wish I was
dank
watching
reference
Shooter. And he's a cop. He's a New York cop who is approached in a bar by someone who's like, "Hey, man, your parents were like demon hunters, and you should go to L.A. and avenge their deaths at the hand of demons." So he does it, and that's basically the premise.
Well, you're getting
glossing
ahead of
over
yourself. You're glossing over the fact that it begins with the ending.
It begins with like a
Oh.
10-minute interminable, indecipherable monologue by Malcolm McDowell, slumming it as always.
Playing, he's doing exactly the same thing that
Slumming
Cagliostro
it.
does in Spawn.
Yes.
The whole movie.
Slumming it as he's done since A Clockwork Orange.
Well, he was in If. I don't know if that was before or after A Clockwork Orange, but like, name me, those are two great Malcolm McDowell movies. Name me a third. Can you do it?
Halloween, Rob Zombie.
He was himself in The Player, but I don't think that counts.
But yeah, we meet this guy, and he's like at death's door. He's been thrown onto the streets, and
His Nash tattoo just exposed for all to see on his bloody naked chest.
right. And then the whole movie is we cut between him being nursed back to health by a stripper and the events of the film that happened like 6 months earlier, which is when he's doing the like, I don't know.
Oh, there are multiple timelines. There's a
There's
6
a
months
year
earlier
earlier.
timeline and a 1 year earlier timeline, and I literally ran the film back because it goes to I think 6 months earlier first, and then a year
Wait, you
earlier.
literally have this on?
No, I think
was
it
it
does
8
the other way
millimeter or
around.
16 millimeter? You were in your
Yes,
in
I
an
ran
editing
the
bay
film
and
back
you ran it
on the
back.
projector.
He was like
I
Ethan
think it went
Hawke
1
in,
year and then 6 months.
Sinister.
No, I hit the little left stick on my PS4 controller and went back to like remind myself of the time element, and it still didn't make fucking sense.
I didn't even try to make sense of it. This movie it was so glacial in its pacing. The soundtrack just kind of like lulled me into unconsciousness at certain times.
Right.
Like it was like the soundtrack for a goth meditation app through the entire thing. There's not a moment of silence in this goddamn thing.
Equal time doctrine. Allison or Chris, say something positive about this movie.
Well,
now.
would you like an explanation?
Yes, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah,
This
please.
explains a lot.
I need an explanation. I saw the fucking movie and I need an explanation.
I did a little bit of research for a change, and I discovered that Corbin Nash was envisioned by this guy, Dean Jagger, and his brother, who is the director.
Yes.
It was envisioned as a probably kick-ass movie where Corbin Nash is a cop in LA who's hunting demons. But they didn't have the budget to do the action sequences that concept required, so they decided to make another movie. This movie we have is a prequel to the first script that they wrote.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So they
Lord.
basically came up with this character who didn't really have an origin story and doing probably some cooler shit, killing demons in LA. And then they couldn't get that money. So they're like, well, we could make whatever happened before this.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah. So that's what we're left with.
So apparently his origin is he begins as an MMA fighter.
Yes.
Okay.
Not even, I don't even know. He
I was curious to hear your thoughts on that.
there seems to be some MMA DNA flowing through this movie.
Yeah, you think?
The director of this movie is Ben Jagger. There is someone who is like a 4-fight MMA record named Ben Jagger, and I'm wondering if it's the same guy. And I don't know.
Well, in any
It
case,
would make a lot of sense.
in any case, he does not have those moves like Jagger.
Wow.
But another thing I want to address about this movie real quick is fucking in media res openings. I'm sick of them. Everyone fucking does them, and I'm sick of them. Everyone just
I don't know what that
defaults.
means.
So in media res means that you start at some...
In the middle of the action.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually maybe that's not the term I'm looking for.
No,
But
that's not what you're looking for.
every film now opens with the ending, essentially.
As Pet Sematary did
which we
tonight,
just
right.
saw. Yeah.
Cool, got it.
Like
Yeah.
every movie does that, and I don't know who started it. Probably Tarantino, but everybody just thinks it's a
Like
cool and
Aristotle
stylish
probably
thing to do.
started it.
No.
What year was this
I
film
mean, if there's a
made?
Latin term for it, it probably
No,
goes
this
back
is. I'm
centuries,
sure this
but-
goes back to like Greek tragedy
In
or
media
something.
res? No,
Yeah.
that is a very recent trend.
What year was
that
this film
every,
made, guys? Was
Every
it-
film does
It
that
was
now.
fairly
2018.
recent. Yeah,
2018.
okay.
Look it up, Chris.
It felt like it was made in
Sunset Boulevard,
2000, like
Yeah, you're right.
2005.
it just
Why?
felt like it was because it was such a low budget film and they weren't doing what they were setting out to do, and it felt to me like it wasn't made in 2017. You know, there weren't any like modern nods. It was ambiguous to me. I had no idea what. I had no
think
idea
that's to
when.
its credit because they tried to take like a graphic novel approach
okay.
to how it was shot and everything, and it works
Wait,
kind of.
what?
It does kind of
I
work.
had that
Wait.
thought while watching it.
Explain that. What do you mean a graphic novel approach to how it's shot?
Like
What
they
does that mean?
wanted it,
like
they
Sin
kind
City
of
kind of thing.
they kind of conceived of it and tried to shoot it in a method in a way that's reminiscent of a graphic novel, like that kind of hero character and stuff.
It's
like
very
that
splashy
you
looking.
know.
It's got some kind of comic book sort of shots in
Yeah,
it.
I
They're
got that too.
poorly
So-
done.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm,
Like Sin City.
A graphic novel can mean all kinds of different things, but
Yeah.
I just to Allison's point, I think that the relative timelessness of the setting and the stylization of things.
I actually wrote down in my notes, which I don't have with me, and I don't really care anymore. Not anything all that interesting there, but I wrote like my third note was like, "Is this based on a graphic novel I've never heard of?"
Yeah, totally.
It did feel sort of like a white blade almost. You
Yeah.
know, like this is like a dark superhero anti-hero origin story.
Just as a fan of comics and graphic novels, I'm just feeling a lot of denigration of graphic novels right now.
No.
And I want to know what y'all are getting
It's like
at.
if I wrote
I'm
a graphic
saying- I'm
novel,
talking
Patrick,
about-
and then made a movie out of it.
I'm
Don't
talking
feel
Yours
about
would
bad.
be way better.
Oh, that's
Allison.
so nice.
Can we
Thank
follow
you.
up on
I'm talking
in
about
media
intent
res?
here. Like I
You're
love
talking about
graphic
what?
novels. Intent.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking for the quality of the film, saying like, wow, this could be a great graphic novel. No.
Yeah, I agree. I felt I got a lot of graphic novel vibes too.
It reminded me of really bad graphic novel adaptations.
Yeah.
and seemed like it was of a piece with that sort of endeavor.
Yes, that is a good.
There we go. I've nailed
That
it.
is a good analogy. It feels like a shitty graphic novel adaptation of a probably better film.
Okay, I
like
didn't
an
mean to
Uwe Boll or a
denigrate.
Paul W.S. Anderson movie.
Yeah, I didn't mean to denigrate graphic novels. That was what I meant. I'm sorry I didn't communicate it. Would you like to hear about in media res?
Sure.
The term was coined in 13 BC by Horace. He describes the ideal epic poet by saying, he doesn't begin the Trojan War from the egg, but he always hurries to the action and snatches the listener into the middle of things. So you start in the middle, and then it's like 6 months earlier. Because,
Yeah. You were right.
it is a little
Goes way
obnoxious.
back.
I think there's a place for it, but not in this movie.
I mean, the term goes way back, but it's become very popular in films and very common and overused.
Yeah, I agree.
In probably the last 20 years or so, I would say.
Yeah.
I just feel like I see that constantly in films as a way to increase tension or suspense, but it just doesn't hold
It can
any unique
work.
value anymore. Yeah,
With something
like
inspired by true events, like we see a moment that we kind of recognize, and it's like, whoa, let's back up. How do we get here?
Like the
like Hooks is like, oh,
Strangers.
this is about something you're familiar with. Now we'll tell you sort of like the behind the scenes story you didn't know.
Or it just needs to hook you, especially with these independent films where they shoot it and they like send it to a distributor and he's going to watch it for 10 minutes before he makes a decision on it. You want to start with something that's more interesting than, Corbin Nash walking the beat in New York.
If you want to hook me, don't start with a 10-minute monologue over B-roll footage of Los Angeles.
Yeah, right. Do you
Touche.
guys remember my story about Strangers where I got the knock on the door and I was like, my infant was 1 month old?
Yeah.
So Strangers is a quintessential example of in media res, but I feel like that worked really
Does
well.
it start in media res?
Yeah, totally.
Does it?
Yeah, the kids, the Jehovah's Witness kids or whatever, they go up to the door to...
Oh, it's the same house. It's not like
and they discover the murder scene and then they call it into the police.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I feel like coming from a person who has a writing background, I think like it's really hard to come up with a beginning for stories sometimes. So if it's a cop out or like something that you're leaning on for lack of a better beginning, it's kind of obvious to movie watchers who have any like wits about them, like us, who are kind of looking for techniques.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is it just feels like a cop out a lot of the time for a writer who doesn't have an interesting way to grab you from the beginning, or more importantly, usually doesn't have interesting characters.
Well, why not begin in the middle of the action and just continue sequentially from there? Like I'm working on, I always have a couple of screenplays I'm working on at any given moment, and I just think like, why do I keep writing myself into a corner? Like, why not just cut out like all the bullshit where I'm introducing the character and just start with the most interesting thing that happens?
Yeah, if you're going to start with a shocking or inciting incident and then back up to 20 or 30 minutes of bland ass character introduction, which I'm not talking about your characters in particular, but characters in like this type of movie. Yeah, sure. Why not just proceed from the fucking moment where Corbin Nash is fucking dumped on the doorstep?
Right. I mean, action is character, right? So like if or character is action, whatever the common phrases, like if we just see these people behaving from an intense situation onward, like we'll learn about them as we go along. It's a lot more fun than watching them make breakfast.
Or at least you could use this guy recovering in the stripper's bedroom to frame the story more efficiently or more effectively than it does. Like you could have the stripper say, well, what's your deal? How'd you get all fucked up? And instead of just screaming like he does for 90% of this movie.
I was going to say, there's like 70% of this movie is just him in agony in the bed, moaning and crying and screaming. We cut back to that almost every 15 minutes.
Well, I don't know about 70% of the movie, but 70% of the movie is him just screaming for one reason or another.
Yeah, true.
This is definitely the guy who, like, his character is the guy who just solves all his problems by screaming and punching holes in your mom's drywall.
And it's not impossible to start your movie with an interesting, inciting incident. I'm just thinking about, because we're going to talk about this later, two of the best horror scripts that have been written in the past couple of years, Get Out and Us, which both start with really shocking incidents, but it still takes place chronologically. It doesn't do the in media res thing, and then it introduces you to some characters that you build up a relationship with. Like, you can still start with a shocking moment without flashing forward to this moment that everybody's going to be like, sort of waiting for, sort of dreading, sort of like, well, we already know we're getting there, so get us to that moment for the whole movie.
That's the problem. So this movie, the story is
Let's
simple.
talk about Corbin Nash.
Let's talk about Corbin Nash. This is the story. There's a cop in New York. He learns just by some guy talking to him at a bar that his parents were demon hunters.
Rutger Hauer.
Yeah, Rutger Hauer. Strange cameo.
Not really, because Rutger Hauer is in all kinds of bullshit, which is really sad because I love him, but...
Yeah. Anyway, he learns his parents were demon hunters. His parents were killed by demons, and he decides he needs to go from being a New York cop to an LA cop, and he investigates people who are disappearing. They're being taken by like vampire demons, and he gets captured by the vampire demons. He gets bitten by a vampire, left for dead, nursed back to health, and then he kills the demon, a couple of the underlings of the demon lords. That's the story. Very simple. Very simple. But it's presented in this crazy thing where we start with him getting dumped on the street half dead, then we go back a year, then we come back to present day, then we go back 6 months, then we come back to present day.
As if the script is preparing to deliver us some really shocking moment at some point, which it never does.
Never does. I mean, I was going to ask, could editing save this movie? And I think the answer to all of us, except possibly Allison, is no.
Less editing.
Could better editing, better sort of sequencing have made this movie watchable for you?
No, because there's no story.
Okay, good. I mean, that's the answer I was hoping for. But I read a lot of like user reviews on IMDb that were complaining about sort of the sequencing in this film, and I was like, I don't think you have a solid argument there. There's really nothing happening in this movie.
This is an origin story for another movie that we're probably never going to see.
When did this come out? 2017?
2018.
2018? Oh, well, could be in the works.
Could be in the works.
If it gets that AMOM bump, they might be able to secure the funding for a sequel.
It might get that bump.
This is the last thing that they need.
That's why we're not going to the spoiler room, because we know at some point he's going to recover and kick some demon ass from the very first scene of the movie. And that happens in the last 10 minutes of the movie, and then the movie's over.
But I like that. Like, that's one of the things I liked about this film, was that he, instead of becoming this primitive, animalistic, like bloodthirsty monster, he turns on them. And I feel like that, again, guys, this is me like looking for the good in it. So it wasn't outwardly just like a great film, I will say that. But if I had to like find some merit or good things about it, I would say I thought that was pretty cool, you know, that he sort of was different in that way. It's a little something out of the ordinary. So that's all I have to say for now. Keep going.
No, that's fine. But you knew he was going to do that.
Kind of. But I was happy that he did that.
And when he got like bit by the vampire or whatever, did you think, oh shit, now he's going to be an evil vampire?
Well, to be honest, I'm glad you asked me that, because there was part of me that was waiting for this film to be unexpected, to be a little bit better than I saw that the, 5.5 out of 10 reviews were when I initially queued it up. Yeah. I was sort of waiting for that moment of like, oh, they want us to think that he's going to turn into vampires, but what if he doesn't, or like, what if there's some hitch or glitch or whatever? But it was predictable. But I don't know. I don't know what I liked about it. I just didn't dislike it. Can we talk about Corey Feldman?
Oh, of course, we have
to. I thought he was fucking brilliant. I really liked him.
I'm in it.
Someone describe Corey Feldman to our listeners.
First of all, I don't think his character had a name.
Queenie. It definitely had a name.
How the fuck did I miss that?
Yeah, she.
I took notes and everything.
Yeah.
Queenie. Oh, Queenie, of course.
Corey Feldman is a drag queen vampire, possibly one of the most transphobic characters ever to grace the silver screen.
Not transphobic. Character is not trans. I would say queerphobic.
Queerphobic. Okay. Fair enough. I'm not sure like what this character is packing, and he must have a dick because he
definitely fucks. Yeah. He has a dick for sure. She has a dick. I mean, her pronouns are not established.
Yes. Okay.
Let's say their pronouns are not established.
Okay. Yeah. Let's not stoop to this movie's level. They will be polite. I don't even know if I can accurately describe Corey Feldman's character.
Oh my god!
I thought it was so absurd that it was like, this is so terrible that I think it's good. I actually think it's good.
I think he was okay.
I feel like, and I know good. Like I know shit, and I know good, and I feel like he kind of won me over.
And he won me over too, and apparently he was in character on set for the entire 15-day duration of this shoot.
That's adorable.
Oh my god!
I mean, it's memorable. Corey Feldman gives a fascinating performance. I can't say I agree with it politically or ethically.
I feel like he took it really seriously, though. Like, that doesn't surprise me that you say he stayed in character for however long, because I think that was the overarching theme for me, was like, he's really, really leaning into this character, and I respect the fuck out of that.
I mean, he's caked in white makeup. He has these thick eyebrows just drawn on top of a prosthetic brow, I think.
Yeah,
because his brow is definitely more pronounced than usual. He has this greasy black hair.
And this amazingly terrible lipstick that's just drawn these, like, Cruella de Vil lips.
And in his first scene, he's, like, just terribly applying his lipstick in a close-up in the rearview mirror of a car and saying, "Everybody wants to fuck me."
That's a good impression of he's like Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill, he's doing his best Buffalo Bill impression.
Totally.
One of the things I also read in this interview with the director is that they wanted this movie to feel kind of like the 80s action / horror movies that they apparently grew up on, and try to have like kind of comic book style horror villains and stuff like that. Sorry, going back to comic books, but
it's a sore spot for Patrick.
You know, like, this is a character who might
comic
be at
books
home.
really taking a beating tonight.
This is a character who might be at home in like an early 80s grindhouse sort of movie.
Sure.
You know, I mean, Buffalo Bill is a queer phobic character, right? He just happens to be in one of the great movies.
To think about that.
He just happens to be in a great movie, right? The thing is, his gender flexibility is played for comedy and played for like, oh god, this is gross.
Yes.
That's the main problem with this.
Yeah, and when it's revealed at the end, I mean, because we can spoil anything we want, we've established.
Yeah.
It's revealed at the end that, like, his sidekick or whatever was in love with him the entire time.
Oh, they have several romantic scenes.
They're a couple.
I know, but there's this moment where it seems like Corey Feldman didn't realize that his henchman, like, actually loved him.
Well, because when he's dying, he says, "I've always loved you." Vince, like, because he says, "I've always loved you." I don't know. I didn't get that impression. I don't mean to disagree with you, because I love you.
No, it's okay. Again, I love you too. I've always loved you.
I've always loved you, Steven.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't pay very close attention to this film after about 45 minutes.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the moment you guys are describing.
Okay, well, good, then I'm fine. I'm off the hook.
I did make a note that Queenie and Vince's like modus operandi is not revealed until the last 17 minutes of the film. And I don't remember what I meant by that either. I watched this movie like 4 days ago.
Well, I remember what you
meant
by that.
Please explain to me what I was talking about.
I wrote down, really? They're going to explain their motives when there's 15 fucking minutes left in the movie? Not that it was anything all that earth-shattering. We could have figured it out.
So there were like the elite vampires, right? There was like the Drake and his crew.
Oh god, Drake.
Yeah, these are like Dark Lord, powerful people who are not hardly even in the movie. They're to be fought in the next movie.
Well, right, and we just saw them as sort of shadow people with these glowing eyes, and they were there for the like Fight Club scenes or whatever you want to call that. But they, to me, felt like the elite, you know, like the royalty. And then Queenie and Vince, they were part of what they called the meat trade.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Sick and amazing. They were kind of like rough around the edges, not going to fit in with the like royal
ghetto
types.
vamps.
They were ghetto vamps, exactly. And they were just there for like the entertainment of it, the sustenance of it, kind of like making a little bit of, they felt a little bit posh. They would, keep a couple around to drain in their goblets and drink their blood and feel really fancy, but they were nowhere near the upper echelon of vampires.
Yeah, they're like low-level pimps.
But they
in the
were
vampire
like
world.
They were doing some dirty work on the streets. Like they were like out there getting people and raping women and then killing them or turning them or whatever they were doing. So they were sort of the like riffraff, but they were doing some shit. They were cleaning up a bit of the streets.
This movie's actually a lot like Spawn, in that Spawn, we go down, we see Satan like for a minute, and Spawn's like, "I'm going to kick your ass someday, Satan," and he goes back,
Excuse you, Malbolgia.
you know. But all Spawn is just Spawn dealing with the enforcers from hell.
Well,
okay,
go ahead.
can we talk about how this like turns into a fucking like MMA movie for 30 minutes?
I feel like we already
Yeah,
did.
but
Fucking Corbin Nash is locked up in prison and is just made to do like kickboxing fights every so often, and there are these.
It's a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie for a good stretch.
Yeah.
Oh, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies are so much better than this.
I had a
Never mind.
glimmer of hope. This movie could have been a lot more entertaining for me if all the like toxic masculinity bro shit had been ironic.
Oh,
And
that would
it's
be
definitely
great.
not at all.
That would be
It's not.
great.
Like, you know, you could do it like a Kurt Russell character or something where like he's over the top, like I'm gonna yell and punch things, but that's kind of the filmmakers are in on the joke.
This movie has no sense of humor whatsoever.
This
No.
movie thinks that this guy's really cool.
The closest thing it has to thinking something is funny is Corey Feldman.
True.
Which is very unfortunate.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
there was a glimmer of hope for me that happened kind of early on. This is where I started to get the idea, because Corbin Nash is talking with his LAPD buddy, and they're on the street and they're talking about a guy. There's a rapist.
Yes.
The rapist
Yeah.
got
And can
off
someone
on a-
please explain this to me? Did that ever go anywhere? Did I miss it?
No.
Was this
never
his
went-
partner?
There's a rapist
his
who
partner,
walks free.
Frank, he's talking to,
It's
right?
set up as a big plot thing, and
Yeah.
There's like 27 people or 35
Well, there's various
people.
themes about like sin and how LA's full of filth and shitty people, mostly poor people, and we need to cleanse the streets or whatever. And so they're talking about this guy's like, he raped a 7-year-old girl, got off on a technicality. Someone should have just shot the bastard.
Right.
Something like that. It's like,
well, and
it's
that's
like
also
bro
referenced in the
shit.
bar scene that precedes it. Like, this is set up as though it's a significant plot point.
Oh.
Well, right, and then they point out that Corbin, you have 2 strikes against you. Like, better not make it a third. Remember? And then he meets
Yeah.
with his dad, and he's like, "You should have shot him."
Yeah.
and it's implied that he's already like kind of
Like,
over.
let the rapist go.
Yeah.
Well,
which-
he's sort of overextended his authority twice, so he had to let the rapist go because he couldn't like
Oh.
do it again.
Yes.
Well, no sooner does this cop partner say, "Yeah, we should have shot him. He raped a 7-year-old girl, got off on a technicality, whatever." But like 2 school-age girls wearing backpacks walk by on the
was
sidewalk,
weird.
and the
And
cop
like thigh-high
leers.
socks because all like 12-year-olds wear those.
Creepy.
And Corbin like stares as they go by. Like, that's a choice.
I don't know about Corbin, but the partner
partner?
cop absolutely leers at them, and I'm like, okay, so here's a little bit. We're showing that this guy's like a tough guy, macho. Let's kill all the rapists, but he's actually a hypocrite a little bit.
Wait, interestingly, I did not get that read from that scene.
Maybe we're trying to get at something. We're like, hey, these guys are actually pieces of shit.
That's what I thought, and then it never follows through on that.
Yeah.
No, instead it's just like fucking. I mean, these dudes sat down. They're like, let's combine the Boondock Saints with MMA and vampires, and also we'll have a queer in it as the villain because that would be funny. You know,
It would
Like,
be
it's-
fun.
Girls
It would be
getting
funny.
tortured with their tits out.
Yeah, and that's another bizarre thing. I mean, like, I don't even. It's so ridiculous to even try and plumb the depths, which there are none. Plumb the shallows of the Corey Feldman character, because like there's no actual thought given to like what his sexual orientation is. Like, he's a cross-dresser, but he fucks girls, but he also has a boyfriend.
I mean,
because I feel like that sets off the alarm bells for the fucking like straight bros who wrote this movie. But they also keep naked girls tied up and like kill them occasionally because I think that titillates the people who wrote the movie. It's just this
But
bizarre.
it's not titillating to the viewer, I don't think. If it is, you're fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing sexy about this movie, but it's also not so grotesque that I was like turned off by it.
Yeah,
No, I think
same.
they're there for titillation.
Oh, it was definitely grotesque enough for me to be.
But they
turned off
also
by it.
turned the last 3 girls that were sitting at the table. They turned them. So they didn't use them for food, which they had done in the past. They turned them into vampires. I thought
Yeah.
that was noteworthy.
Well, this movie doesn't have anything
Those
to
girls
say
got turned.
about
got turned.
sexuality.
Yeah, but I feel like it wasn't trying to say anything about sexuality.
No.
Like, I thought it was okay that they didn't define Corey Feldman's character as like one whatever. I felt like the rest of the movie isn't trying to do anything very deep. So like, why would this be any exception to that?
Well, yes, the film isn't trying to say anything about sexuality, but it says so much through what it doesn't say.
That's right. It's the politics of this stuff is just completely lost on the filmmakers.
If you're going to make a bold choice like that, you need to back it up. Like, you need to have like decent material surrounding it, so that, because otherwise it's just incredibly jarring. We're left to wonder what their intentions were, and I'm going to assume they were awful.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're maybe if you are trying to make a fucking 80s grindhouse movie, sure, this would have flown in the 80s, but like, yes, at this point, we all have like a little better understanding of sexuality, and like, I don't know.
That said, I was not offended by this character, and I found him to be the lone bright spot in the movie.
That's
how bizarre the performance was.
That's the irony, because I feel the same way, and it's like, I don't condone that this thing is in the movie. This depiction.
I mean, I was perversely fascinated by the performance, for sure.
Can
Corey
you imagine?
Feldman is clearly giving it his all.
Can you imagine this film without Corey Feldman?
No.
It would be the most boring,
it would be so much worse.
Just vapid film.
It's bad, but it would be worse.
It would be so much worse.
Yes.
All right, well, I think we got some more interesting stuff to talk about than this movie. I'm kind of gassed out on this. What do you all say?
Yeah.
All right, well...
Have we gotten through it? Have we gotten through everything? Oh, here's a Chris line. Corbin Nash, poor man's Christian Bale.
Poor man's Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt?
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't see Chris Pratt at all. Chris Pratt is like funny.
Something else that was interesting, though, is like every line of dialogue in this movie is just completely cliched, and it kind of entertained me for that purpose. Like, it seemed like they intentionally committed to everyone just saying the most like bro, like wannabe noir shit ever.
I wish that were intentional. I think that's just all they could come up with.
In the spirit of talking a little bit about us at some point in this show, there was one line that I thought was noteworthy. And I didn't think that we would be talking about us, but I know we've all seen it and loved it. The blind man, so the actor's name was, I don't know.
Malcolm McDowell.
Got it. Tells Corbin, we all have a shadow side.
Oh.
Verbatim.
Oh.
And it totally like put my spidey senses up, because I was like, interesting trend alert.
Jordan Peele is a Corbin Nash fan.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's that. Yeah. You heard it here first and last. You'll never hear that again, I don't think. But it's, if nothing else, it's a popular theme about the duality of people.
I mean, it's probably
a tale as old as time.
It is a tale as old as time.
It's the most timeless theme. That's like why we have the Greek mask there, like smiley face, frowny face.
Of course. But I just thought it was apropos that the verbatim of this was we all have a shadow side.
After Us unsettled us so much with that premise, like my ears perked up a little bit when I heard that too.
Yeah. He says we all have a shadow side, a fine line between good and evil. Sometimes you've got to do a little bad for the greater good.
But also that's in the context of like Corbin Nash is a cop, like
and doing like vigilante justice.
Like, this city's full of filth, and it's showing like homeless people. And I'm like, I don't know if I want my cops doing a little bad to do a little good, like at the expense of homeless
Super
people.
Boondock Saints again.
Oh yeah.
You know, this is we've heard this story before, but that one line I think.
Oh, okay. Credit where it's due. One thing I did like is, for some reason, Corbin Nash's dad was a World Series champion, Major League Baseball player.
Yes,
he won the World Series for the Yankees.
Right, and it was a cover because he would just travel around with the team and kill vampires. Apparently,
he was so good at baseball that was just his cover.
Yeah.
Like,
it's amazing.
Well, I guess if he's a vampire, or if he had that blood in him, he's probably good at it.
Superhuman strength.
When Corbin Nash finally goes sicko mode and becomes a vampire slayer, he whittles down a baseball bat into a steak.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is my last line. Baseball bat, steak, go Yankees. The last line of my notes.
Like, that was actually delightful. I like that.
Same, dude. I grew up a Yankee fan. And to be honest, while he was like using his...
I'm glad he didn't play for the Red Sox.
I went to school in Boston and was also a Red Sox fan, so crucify me if you will. Many people have for being
duality of man.
It's my shadow side. I'm not sure which one's worse. When he was whittling down what I later realized was the bat, I was like, why is he using wood? Like, why doesn't he use like a metal? And then I was like, oh, it's a fucking baseball bat.
I hope
it's
it was
symbolic.
his dad's bat.
Yeah, and then he
was.
said like, this is for you, old man, to the picture of his dad in the Yankee uniform that he suddenly had a picture of his, I don't know.
The prequel they should have made instead of this unnecessary origin story is the story of Corbin Nash's dad being the first vampire slayer in the major leagues.
Yeah.
This did nothing for me. I am amazed that all three of you loved this so much. This whole element did nothing for me.
Oh, the baseball bat thing.
By the time the baseball bat came out, I wasn't even paying attention, but I just remember the ridiculous scene where we learned about the baseball player dad, and he gets his dad's ring, his World Series ring. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Amazing. And then
how is it possible that I gave a fuck about something less than Steven did, let alone a sports thing?
Right.
Then the demon lords are like, oh, I know that ring.
Yeah, nice ring, man.
Great
ring. What's your batting average now, bitch?
I'm a big baseball fan, so I think it was no surprise for me. I didn't surprise myself that that was the only other thing I loved. Thanks for bringing it up, Chris.
Yeah, I'm glad I remember that.
Wait, are we talking about the actual ending before the spoiler room?
What else is there
Rutger
to say?
Hauer? Or no, I mean fucking Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah, you go ahead and talk about that.
I mean, it literally ends with Malcolm McDowell saying, and so it begins. So it begins. That's the ending.
It's a great origin story. But again,
he explains that Corbin Nash is back and he's gonna fucking wreak havoc on the vampires, and that we've just watched a fucking hour and 40-minute foreplay.
Tied it back into the whole City of Angels. Sometimes an angel falls from hell. And
It's all bad.
A lot of angel references.
But this is just another example of a movie that's swinging too hard, no pun intended, for that franchise. And really, they should have just diluted the original concept. I don't give a fuck. Have him fight
because of baseball.
Have him fight the Demon Master. Give me a Corbin Nash fighting the guy who killed his dad.
Drake,
it's not like you can't.
Right. We get all this setup about fucking Drake, and then he never shows up. I mean, we
didn't even see his face.
Biggest, it's just this drip of pre-cum. It's like the fucking Dark Universe. It's like the fucking. What are these other aborted franchises? Yeah, Cirque du Free.
Yeah, water down your brainchild. You don't need the $1 billion fight scene at LAX when he's fighting the Demon Lord that you're trying to save for the next movie. Just have him fighting the Demon Lord with a baseball bat in a strip club, and I'll be satisfied.
In case there's no next movie,
and
because let's be honest.
Yeah, and maybe I want to see another movie. I don't know. Anyway,
God damn it,
Allison. Our special guest, would you view it, cue it, or screw it?
I've thought about this, and I'm going to say cue it.
Okay.
I didn't love it, but in light of me trying to find good in these movies, I would say cue it for a rainy day. Okay.
For a second, I thought I might find a way to get to cue it personally, because it did some things well. I thought it was. I mean, it's technically beyond reproach, pretty much. It looks good. The acting.
It looks solid. Yeah.
The acting is fine for the way these characters are written, which is to say, there's nothing really. There's no depth to any of it. But this movie seems like it did what it wanted to do. It just tried to do a really superficial, shitty thing. I don't know. Anyway. I can kind of see enjoying this movie, again, if it's 2 a.m. and you've had 8 beers and you're winding down. But you probably just fall asleep. So I have to say screw it. Better luck next time.
And who wants to watch the next movie without Corey Feldman? Let's be honest.
They'll have to find a way to bring him back from the dead.
True.
Yeah. All right.
Sometimes dead is better.
Sometimes dead is better.
Full circle, guys.
Steven, view it, cue it, or screw it?
Screw it.
Patrick.
Screw it with prejudice.
All right. Prejudice. Well, there's nothing to spoil, but we're going to go downstairs anyway, and we're going to talk about some other fun horror stuff that hopefully we liked a little bit more. So stay tuned. And we're going to go easy on the spoilers on that stuff, at least for a bit. So it's okay to tune in if you haven't seen
Easy on spoilers in the spoiler room. How do we explain that?
We're not going easy on spoilers. We're going to spoil everything.
We're going to spoil the shit out of Pet Sematary.
Yep.
And us, and the Twilight Zone.
Yep.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back. We're down here in the spoiler room, getting ready to spoil some great recent horror releases.
To not spoil Corbin Nash, because we already did that shit.
We already spoiled the shit out of Corbin Nash. We're just down here chilling. There's a little cat in the corner of the basement. A little worried about that.
Hey, Churchy.
I didn't know there was a cat in the spoiler room, but we got one now. It's beautiful.
I hate cats.
Oh,
You hate cats?
too.
Yeah, I'm not a cat person.
oh wow.
I mean, I don't hate them, but I don't like them.
I don't
love
hate them
cats.
either.
Me and Steve are
Fine.
cat people.
Why don't you have a cat?
Apartment living, and I worry about if I would be a good cat dad. And
It's so easy.
yeah,
They don't need a lot.
yeah.
I've left Toby alone all day today, and I probably won't be home until 2.
Toby
and I'll be fine.
is named after Toby Hooper.
Toby Hooper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Toby Jones.
Of interest.
Not Toby Jones.
Fuck you. All right, so lots of cool stuff going on this week. So we all watched Us recently. You know,
I saw it twice.
Patrick saw it twice.
Yeah,
Steven
we
saw it twice.
Us. I've seen it once. I'm going to see it
Us
again
saw we.
tomorrow.
Oh wow!
yeah.
I'm very excited.
So I guess that tips your hand about whether you would view, Q, or screw that one.
Well, yeah, obviously I would view it because I'm going to see it again. Well, no, I guess cute. Well, no, anyway, I would view
You
it.
can't see it 3 times
Don't
in
overthink it,
theaters.
Steven.
This will
really
be
cute.
number 2 for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not 3.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I might want to see it a third. I don't know. If it lives up to the expectations I have for it a second time through, I will probably watch it the moment it comes out on Blu-ray, and then Get Out once every 6 months afterward until I get tired of it.
Awesome.
It absolutely lived up to my memory. As soon as I walked out of it with you, Steven, I was like, I gotta see this again.
I was shaken the whole night.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Alice and I were talking about this on the drive to Plum Market earlier. We were both nerding out, reading shit online, listening to podcasts all night.
Oh, yeah. I came home. First thing that happened when I came home, I turned the key in my lock when I came home from Us, and it seemed like the lock was already unlocked. And I walked in my house, and I swear to God, I walked around and checked every nook and cranny of my house for a doppelganger. I went in the bathtub. I checked behind the shower curtain in the bathtub. I went in the kitchen. I looked out on the balcony. I looked in all the closets. I mean, this is not a riff. I was freaked out.
I have the text to prove it, and you freaked me out. I've never walked more slowly up the 2 flights of stairs into my apartment as I did. Normally, I kind of double step, like I'm climbing, I'm almost at the top of Mount Everest. I'm finally there. Just let's go. I tiptoed.
Yeah.
I was so afraid to walk into my apartment. I was very afraid to look in my bathroom mirror.
And then I read think pieces for 45 minutes.
Same.
And then went to sleep and had a bunch of dreams about Us.
It was more like 3 hours for me. But
Mine was more like 3 hours. The people that I went and saw it with just kind of were done with it when the movie was over, which was so typical of them. I won't name names, but we're basic movie watchers.
we saw Pet Sematary today, and while I was getting my ticket, these guys got there before I did, and I was kind of in a rush. I did happen to catch a snatch of conversation with the people next to me who were going to see Us, and they said it was a guy and a girl, and he said it's because I couldn't get her to see Pet Sematary, and the girl behind the counter at the theater said, "Oh, well, I mean, Us is great, but it's not even scary. You guys will be fine."
Oh my God. What a basic bitch.
One of the most I cannot imagine sitting through that movie and not being just completely unsettled, having my nerves shattered afterward. Yes, it is a very funny film. It doesn't have a lot of sort of straight up horror in it. It's not gory, but it is very violent.
It's extremely
super
intense.
gory.
But I cannot
Also-
imagine it not fucking you up.
It's like one of those rides at Cedar Point amusement park, if you don't know what
Yes.
Cedar Point is, where it's 5 maximum thrill. And you look, and it's maybe it doesn't look that. I mean, there's a wide range of maximum thrill, but this is a maximum thrill horror movie for me. I mean, it's intense as all fuck.
And this is the thing about it is I went back 3 days later, and it was almost the same experience for me. When Adelaide goes down the escalator at the end, I was just chills. My body was covered in chills for probably the last 20 minutes of that movie, and I walked out and again had the same reaction I did the first time, where I was physically just unstable, where I felt like I couldn't walk straight when
Did
I
you
walked
check
out
your
of that
bathtub
movie.
when you got home again?
No, actually.
Peel is just, I mean, if you, okay, so the basic conceit, without getting into the sort of social or political context of this film, is the scariest thing is yourself. Who are you really? And that sounds so trite, but it is something I've thought about in my own life before. We've all made mistakes, and there are versions of ourselves that we wouldn't want to confront again. And if we're kind of in that late night, dreamy sort of space, it'd be creepy to look in the mirror and see that version of yourself. I can't imagine someone taking that sort of very basic primal fear that we all have and communicating it as effectively as he did in this film. Like, there are so many movies that use like the mirror as a trope or the doppelganger as a trope, and it's just kind of silly. This movie really made me deeply question myself.
We perceived it differently, but it is frightening to me in a different way. Not in the sense that myself, or encountering like a duplicate version of me is scary, but more in the sense that, it causes you to think about the people who you've built, whatever modest success you may have made in your life on, and empathize with those people more than you normally would.
No, that's the
so
larger
it's not like the fear and the horror of it is like, holy fuck, like how many people have I essentially fucked over inadvertently to get where I am in life, and how close are they to me? How relatable and empathetic are they to me?
That's the broader context of the theme. That's what you're ultimately supposed to take away from it. But I mean, Peele he has said this in multiple interviews, that it started with that germ of, like, what's the scariest thing? Oh, like a version of myself that I'm not comfortable with. And just the image of looking at yourself and it looks wrong. A simple thing, that's been done time and time again in horror movies. I mean, he does it so well just when young Adelaide discovers her doppelganger, and we just see this girl that looks exactly like her in the dark, very darkly lit. All you can see are the eyes and the teeth, and the girl has just this like slightly demented smile.
I thought that was just my projection in my theater. I think I had dim projection on everything. I didn't know it was actually that dark everywhere.
No, it is very deliberately lit. And yeah, I mean, just that image alone, like I get like chills thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it makes more sense, and it's closer to the way I interpreted it and related to it, because it's about what happens when you're confronted with the version of yourself where you suddenly see the shit that you've done, or the societal inequalities that you've taken advantage of to get where you are.
In that scene, it's like, for that little girl, it might be, if you look at it, more closely, like what would my life look like if I hadn't had an education,
right,
and I was just like locked in a closet for 5 years,
or hadn't had glasses, right? Like that moment was super pivotal to me when
Abraham,
Abraham's tether puts his glasses on, and for the first time he can see.
Oh my God, I know.
And it's so nuanced, like it didn't hit me for a couple minutes
after. I noticed that.
It's kind of funny. It's like a little bit funny too, the way it's staged, but it's also like, oh my God, like what is going through
a little funny,
what is
which
going
was
through
the
his mind
art,
right now?
The craft of it was like, how could it be funny and like so mind-blowingly insightful at the same time? And it didn't hit me for a couple minutes where I was like, holy shit, he has never been able to see.
Well, and he has that tick that's very poignant, where even before he gets the glasses, he keeps putting his fingers up to the bridge of his nose and like pushing up glasses that aren't there.
Oh my God, I didn't even realize
I didn't
that. But you're
notice that
totally
either.
right.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
It's one of those movies.
We need to see it again.
It's a movie very much like Get Out that is just has so many details and nuances and things you're going to miss the first time. You're going to miss them the second time. You might miss them the third time. And that's what makes Get Out so fun for me. I just watched Get Out for the third time. Which I hate to compare the two movies, but
no, let's compare them.
I did leave.
Great discussion.
I
hate doing that.
I did
feel like
leave.
that's so reductive.
All I'm gonna say is that Get Out, I said, was a perfect film. It's a perfect film. Us, I don't think it's a perfect film, but I think it does some things better than Get Out. And I love them both, and I can't wait to own Us on Blu-ray, just like I own Get Out on Blu-ray.
I love Get Out, but I think
physical
Us,
media, hell yeah.
I love Get Out, but I think Us is a better film on every level.
We've talked about this, Patrick. I feel like I don't like to compare the two because they're completely different movies. I mean, Get Out has like a very specific, concrete point that it wants to get across. Us has broader national and possibly even global implications. So I give it some credit if it stumbles here and there. That's a lot of information needs to be conveyed in that 2 hours to get that point across, and I think it does just fine doing that.
I don't even see stumbles in Us. The closest thing Us gets to a stumble is that final shot. I think it could end with the shot of Jason pulling the werewolf mask down.
There's some exposition that I think comes across well because it's artistically shot and framed. I still was kind of like taken out of the movie in a couple of moments.
It's just not as elegant as Get Out.
I disagree.
Okay.
And I love Get Out. Again, I don't really want this to come off as a slight against Get Out, because I had a great experience with Get Out in the theater. It didn't hit as well with me the second time. I watched it on Blu-ray, and it was still good, but didn't hit me the same way when you know what's coming.
This conversation
Us was just a fucking... I mean, like I already said, just blew me away both times, even when Chris. I knew it was coming.
What did you prefer Us to Get Out?
I only saw Get Out once, so I think
Get out!
I definitely... Get out of here. I haven't made the time, admittedly, to see it again, and it's one of those on my list of absolutely need to see it again. And, I love watching movies 2 or 3 or 50 or 100 times. I thought they were both super masterful and, had different messages and conveyed both of them really well. But I think the message behind Us was more interpretive, and I think that's sort of the beauty of it. Like Stephen was saying, this was covering a lot of ground in broad strokes, and it was like folks are going to get what they're going to get out of it. And for one person, it might be about race. I thought it was so fascinating, and it really resonated with me that it was the first horror movie that I can think of that centered around a Black family. And that alone made it stand out, from other horror movies. So that was such low-hanging fruit, but felt so different for me as a horror movie fan.
So refreshing. It
was refreshing, but ultimately it not being about race, that was even cooler. The fact that it was centered around a Black family, but not really about race was that's kind of where we should be in 2019,
Yeah. Where I would say it's I mean, this is Peele himself saying this movie's not about race, and the casting is about representation, but I'm okay, well, they're still affluent, but they're in the shittier summer house, the way the bed creaks. They've got this tiny, twin XL bed that they're supposed to fuck in.
Versus their friends.
I was talking to Patrick about that, because if you look at the movie's argument sort of about class and privilege and that sort of thing, I think it's more powerful that the people who are conveyed in the movie as privileged aren't super rich. They're middle class.
Right. And,
they're you and me.
Too.
Ostensibly.
It's
Wait, are we not considering their friends super rich? Because I felt like they were super rich.
Their friends are super rich. Tim Heidecker.
I did too. That's why I said ostensibly. I would definitely say
Tim
I would say upper middle class for sure.
Richer than I'll ever be, let's face it.
He's clearly Abraham's superior at work, right? He's got more money. But, Abraham can still afford a summer home in Santa Cruz.
Gabe. Abraham is the tether.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Gabe.
Glad you knew that.
And it's interesting. Even the central family of this movie, I wouldn't necessarily even say they're affluent. They're upper middle class, probably. Yeah. And Tim Heidecker is lower upper class.
But the point, Patrick and I were talking about this earlier this week. It's important that being middle class or upper middle class is increasingly putting you above more and more people.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing.
It is. It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm doing all that well sometimes. I'm it could be a lot worse.
So that's that's the message, because I'm kind of hyper political in the way my mind works. So I was reading all that stuff into it. But like Allison was saying, it's a movie that's definitely open to many interpretations. And I liked what you said about, it just reflecting the darker aspects of our own personalities. And I think that's equally valid.
Another thing Peele said is, and again, this is kind of festival circuit talk. He's got his talking points, but he said that he intended this film to be personal, for everyone who sees it to create their own sort of personal interpretation of what the themes are. I don't know what that means exactly, but it's clear that it worked. I don't know what's in the construction of it or the writing of it, but every person I talked to about this movie has a different take on it.
That's
it focuses on different
masterful.
Details. And I know, at this point, I've probably talked to maybe 10 people who've seen it.
What are some of the different takes on it? It's sort of difficult for me to imagine that it's.
Some people think it's about class. Some people think it's about race. Some people.
How is it about? How do people interpret it being about race?
Class and race are so intertwined.
Exactly.
That's the thing. There's so many. James, there's so many dichotomies in the film of ideas that are so closely related that they're inextricable, which really makes sense when you think about what just the visual iconography of the film with the rabbits and the scissors and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's dealing with a lot of complicated shit closely tied together. So I can see that, but also every single person I talk to points out different details. Never heard anybody else mention the glasses thing, for instance. And I've talked about this movie for hours since I've seen it. And I remember that, but that didn't stick with me.
Monster Trap was my favorite.
I mean, it is loaded with nuance and loaded with setups and payoffs. Like, it is, there's almost no fat on this movie. Just everything functions in some way. Okay. I don't see as much room for interpretation in it as you guys do.
So imagine watching this movie as a person of color. And it's not about race, but you're not doing bad, in life. You can afford a beach house, you can afford a boat, but you still can't afford what these white folks, your superiors, can afford, right? I mean, that's inherently, you can't ignore that. That's a narrative on race, whether or not it was intended to be. This doesn't exist in a vacuum where there aren't race issues in the real world.
Sure, but that's not the overriding theme of the movie. Like, that's
that's
an interesting point.
But as an interpretation, if you're a person of color watching this, you go like, fucking of course that guy is the white guy has more money and a bigger house and a bigger boat. Of course he does, because how could he not? But it's not about race. But that's how you might read it.
But but again, I'm saying, but that if you follow the rest of the movie through, like, yes, that's an interesting point that you might emphasize more, that might resonate with you more if you are a person of color or any other various whatever audience member. But I don't see how that carries through as the theme of the film. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Not
that
everybody's
I agree.
a film critic, and not everyone who sees this film, which is made for a mass audience, mass market, is really focused on the theme. I mean, some people might just be like, "This is a great female empowerment movie."
Yeah.
Like, Lupita with her fucking fire poker just kicks ass for half the movie. And it's the fact is, it's so packed, it's so densely packed with information that I can see somebody just kind of getting lost and being like, seeing that final shot and not connecting the dots. And I think that's fair.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of themes. Themes as a plural when we're talking about movies. Yeah. Good movies have multiple themes. Shittier movies have one theme. Netflix movies have no themes.
Well, that's not fair to say, Chris.
I kid Netflix. I kid.
I mean, the main variances that I've identified in how people analyze this movie are just in the severity, I guess, of the class commentary. I think it's a class movie no matter what. I mean, Peele, in an interview that I listened to, said, it's about the duality of American society and how much that scares him. And then I read a think piece that's like, it's about the class uprising and about how, like, poor people are going to go kill rich people.
I think it's
a class movie no matter what.
Yes, I think it is.
It's in there, but there's a lot of other stuff too. I think it's right. Saying, like, there is a way to see this movie and for that not to sink in and still get something else really vital out of it.
Yeah, nobody's saying it's not a movie about class. That was my experience. It's just,
but yeah. What do we all think of the line, "We're Americans"? What does that line mean?
Because I've heard stories of people in theaters where, like, that's a laugh line, and I almost did kind of want to laugh, and I was like, I mean, looking back on it now, that's...
But what does it mean to everybody? I don't really know what it meant to me. It kind of did make me laugh, but only because of the state of affairs that we're in. It's like, what is being an American right now?
What? Like, this person is, like, barely verbal, and they're saying that? Like,
to me, it was associating the craving for upward mobility that everyone in the movie has with the American dream, and that if you're an American, this is what you aspire to.
Yeah,
it's like, we're Americans. We're coming for you. Like, you're where we have deserved to be for, decades.
We're colonizing.
Yeah.
That's an interesting line, because I've heard that... See, this is where I think there's a lot of room for interpretation on the movie. There are a lot of individual elements that I think there's a lot of room for interpretation on, and that line is a perfect example of it, because I've heard people say, that line was chilling. Like, I just floored me, And I responded to it like... And maybe this is one of the few flaws in the movie to me, is that felt a little on the nose to me.
Like, contrived.
I don't know if I need that much
I love it.
But it's a conversation
that's what
starter.
That character would say, though. Like, I firmly, like, I could run that conversation through a million
Really?
ways. That is what that character would say.
Because to me, that felt like Jordan Peele talking. That didn't feel like Red
She's a
talking.
radical. She's a radical. She started a movement that is, like, spanning the entire country based on a T-shirt. Like, of course, I
could see that.
But I feel like a second time through that line would ring
And listen,
true.
honestly, if you have...
Second time through, it felt the same to me.
If you have, and
I'm excited to see how it plays.
If you have a population being kept underground by the government and raised by the government, you think those people aren't saying the Pledge of Allegiance every morning?
Whoa.
No.
Interesting. I like that interpretation.
I don't know.
That means something to me.
Yeah. Because
It's a
what do they know?
line.
To me, that's
What
an
your mileage may vary.
extrapolation,
It's
not
an
an
extrapolation,
interpretation.
but what else do they know about America?
Right.
They see hands across America on a T-shirt.
They're
That's it?
indoctrinated.
I'm sure they're indoctrinated.
Yeah.
I can't go to a fucking city council meeting without saying the Pledge of Allegiance. You
I
think
haven't
I
said
could
the
be
Pledge of Allegiance since 12th grade. I don't
raised
know what you
and
guys are
fed
talking
by the
about.
government
I don't know if I
without
can do
saying
it now.
Anyway, well, so we all say go see Us if you haven't seen it already.
Go see it twice.
You'll pull something fascinating out of it. Yeah, once really isn't enough, probably.
Take yourself to see it, and then take your shadow self to see it.
But yeah, Jordan Peele, he's on a roll. Which brings us to the Twilight Zone, which just came back. Allison hasn't seen the reboot at all.
I have nothing to offer here.
Nothing to offer.
Except that I'm very excited to see it.
Maybe you do, but the rest of us have watched at least one episode of
I've seen The Comedian with Kumail Nanjiani, and
Yes.
it's...
You didn't like it.
I didn't like it at all, except for the brief moments where Jordan Peele showed up, and they were all too brief. However, I understand this is the first episode. I think it's interesting and possibly calculated that they chose The Comedian as the first episode of The Twilight Zone. Jordan Peele is trying to establish himself as a horror sci-fi dude now, and this episode is all about the merits of comedy and stand-up comedy. I feel like he didn't write it; he just produced it. What does that mean? I mean, he might just be collecting a paycheck.
That's
and
actually
pretend to be
interesting,
Rod Serling,
because Jordan Peele is ostensibly the new Rod Serling, but the show, at least so far, is certainly not as much of a auteur effort as Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone.
Right, Rod Serling wrote how many episodes of The Twilight Zone? A shitload.
And it was his
So-
brainchild.
Is The Comedian the one that's not play-by-play of Rod Sterling show?
Right.
Neither of them are.
It's a new script.
Okay.
The second episode, which these guys can speak to more than I can because they've seen it, but I know that it's based on Nightmare at 20,000 Feet by Richard Matheson.
It's vaguely based. I mean, it's
inspired
based
by?
on it. Yeah, it's inspired. Yeah, I mean,
There's paranoia on a plane.
Exactly. That's about as far
It
as
involves
it
a
gets.
podcast. That's all I know.
Otherwise,
Heyo.
Not
it
this
doesn't have a
podcast.
lot. The original.
But no, that one was actually oddly disappointing to me.
Yes.
So neither of the two episodes available so far have knocked my socks off, but I am very interested and optimistic, and I look forward to watching more Twilight Zone. I think they're imperfect, but I think that they're only imperfect as far as the original series was imperfect.
Yes.
I mean, people dwell on the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone had some greatest hits, but most of the Twilight Zone was pretty simple concepts in plots that like mostly worked, and
I would add to that in plots that often dragged on longer than they needed to, which both of these episodes do. The Comedian
Oh, well, if we're
more
talking
than
about season
Nightmare
4.
at 30,000 Feet. No, I'm not talking about season 4. I'm talking about like greatest hits Twilight Zone. I will admit I haven't watched a ton. I've only watched like a few episodes, and among them like supposedly some of the greatest ones, which I did enjoy, but most of them dragged out the concept for too long. I think the easiest criticism you can apply to the new season, particularly The Comedian, is that it's too long. It's 55 minutes. You could cut probably 10, 15, maybe more minutes out of it.
I would say you could cut 25 minutes out of it.
I think that's
it's
Like,
likely.
it should be 30 minutes.
fine. But I think you could cut 10 minutes out of like Eye of the Beholder or
a lot of classic Twilight Zone.
Twilight
The
Zone.
Twilight
Perfect,
Zone-
but however, like different times, people responded like this was a revolutionary show. I feel like if we're gonna wait this long to reboot the Twilight Zone for the fifth time, like with Jordan Peele involved, I just expected more. I'm like, okay, whatever. The original show had flaws. It was in the fucking 60s. Like, get your shit together. You're doing 12 episodes. How hard is it to write 12
that's
tight
interesting.
episodes of a
Times
show?
have
And we've learned
changed.
so much.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. times have changed, and one of my regrets about this new Twilight Zone is that it's only available online on this CBS All Access, which no one wants to subscribe to. We got a free trial, and we watched it on the free trial, but like looking around on what else you can get with your free trial of CBS All Access, like who the fuck wants to watch season 1 of Survivor?
If you're into Star Trek Discovery,
dude, what? Every like CBS show,
CBS
if you pull
show.
up the shows, like every show you could imagine.
Yeah, but like, what are some good
Big Bang
CBS
Theory
shows?
season 1 through 17,000.
Oh yeah, because I want to watch Big Bang Theory. Fuck
Also,
you.
I should clarify
Young
for the
Sheldon?
listeners,
Old
I'm being
Sheldon?
sarcastic.
Middle-aged
Fuck
Sheldon?
Big Bang Theory. Fuck you.
Regular Sheldon.
Fuck Sheldon. Fuck all ages of
Future
Sheldon.
Sheldon,
And
past
fuck
Sheldon?
Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory.
2.5
Fuck
men.
Shannon.
The Bing Crosby theory.
What are you guys talking about?
That sitcom. Yeah.
Let's move
question.
on.
So whatever, but anyway, I think I would wish that this were on network TV. They would have to clean up the language, but this is like the kind of show that like I think would be.
You didn't like all those darn F-bombs.
I think it would be good for this show to be on network TV now because I think it's a lot better made and smarter and well put together than a lot of shit that's on network TV.
And it would be forced into a fucking time constraint.
Yes.
Instead of this, let's make it 55. The comedian didn't need to be 55 fucking minutes, as is the case with so many shows these days. Cut it down. Take like fucking 20 minutes out of it. You'll lose nothing.
But
All right, old man Patrick.
But
Listen, you're the one who said even more time should be cut out of the comedian than me.
I like the idea of a flexible runtime if the story serves it. I like that we now have that option. However, it's very rarely used for good.
But the thing
Black
is,
Mirror is a great example of that, I think.
For the most part, yeah, there are some episodes of San Junipero. I could have had a half hour more of that.
Yeah, or I mean, it was just the perfect amount. It was just long enough.
well, the
you know?
time slot makes everyone check and see if things can be cut out, which I think maybe some of these episodes are suffering from.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it looks great. I love how it looks. It's shot in Vancouver, and you can tell X-Files territory. I love it. It's good.
It's all shot in Vancouver?
Yeah. I don't quite know how I feel about their like aesthetic gimmick of shooting everything like close up with really wide lenses so it looks like reality's off kilter.
Yeah.
But it's something Rod Serling might have done if they could do that in the 60s.
They had lenses back then.
Like a Black Mirror ripoff, sort of.
I haven't watched Black Mirror.
Oh yeah, it didn't feel like it really had its own sort of character or flavor.
But everything I've seen convinces me that at least the people who are making it understand the Twilight Zone, and I like that.
Well, it's a whole hodgepodge of like writers and directors who've worked on like tons of different shit.
Okay, one thing we can agree on, and then we can move on. Jordan Peele is the best part of the new show. Yeah, he's great. Every time he shows up,
great, but he's in it for like a total of 2 minutes.
Well, yeah, but
that's why actually I would take 55 minutes of just Jordan Peele doing Twilight Zone.
It's him telling us a story.
Yeah,
but
and saying the Twilight Zone every like 45 seconds.
His monologues aren't, and this is unfortunate because I do feel like he's such a captivating presence. His monologues aren't really nearly as like creative as Rod Serling's were. It just it really feels like he probably shot them all in like an hour, and that's his only involvement with the series.
Yeah, you made
he's like, I'll slap my name on it. I mean, I don't think he's written any episodes or directed any.
He has story credits for sure. He has a story credit on Nightmare at 30,000 Feet, and I mean, obviously, he was on different sets to shoot these monologues. So I mean, I think that's a gross exaggeration.
They still could have done it one day. I don't know.
But yeah, the monologues don't yet have as much bite as some of Rod Serling's great ones.
Not even bite. Rod Serling, I don't know, I liked him getting up on his pulpit and just talking about the human condition for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. We just all want Rod Serling to come back, but you can't bring people back from the dead.
Or can you?
Oh, wow.
Which brings us to...
They don't come back the same.
The movie we just watched all together as a family at the movie theater, Pet Sematary.
It's a great family-friendly film.
Great family movie.
Take your kids, your dog, your cat.
It's really a movie about family. And so, Steve, you saw the original movie, the 89 movie.
It's been a really long time, though. A couple of weeks ago, I did watch half of it again, just to see. And it just felt like a made-for-TV movie. I was really captivated with it.
I have not seen that movie, but I did read the book. Patrick,
I thought it actually was a TV.
No, it did come out theatrically.
You had not read the book or seen the movie.
No.
Allison, had you read the book or seen the previous movie?
I read the book when I was a teenager, and I saw the previous movie a long, long time ago, but it's been completely wiped from my memory by other more important things. And then I reread it, obviously.
Well, Pet Sematary is, if you don't know, it's the timeless tale of the family that moves into a new house in rural Maine, right between a busy trucking route and a pet cemetery.
Location.
I have to say something, you guys. As a newly licensed realtor, it begged the fucking question: why, if you have 50 acres, is your house situated on a fucking major thoroughfare? If it's been such a fucking problem that we have a whole cemetery designated for pets that were killed on this said thoroughfare, maybe we just don't build there and we go back even a couple hundred yards.
If you had a,
you're gonna have to plow some snow, but
just let's
you'll
cut
survive.
out the
But there'll be more room for the kids to play hide and seek.
Oh, Jesus
So
Christ.
if there's a house on 50 acres, but at least half of those acres are occupied by a pet cemetery and
Indian burial ground,
and haunted Indian burial ground that the Wendigo has staked a claim to, is that something that should be in the seller's disclosures?
I would say so.
Do the creeds have any sort of legal recourse to what happened?
You know, sellers' disclosures are funny, especially when it comes to death. I don't know. You only have to disclose something if it's a clear and present danger to the current occupants. So if your house was a prior meth lab and there are toxic chemicals that might be in the wood or in the air, then you have to disclose that. But if someone was murdered,
the Wendigo, we don't know.
Probably not, to be honest. No, I don't think you'd have to disclose that.
I have a movie about a real estate agent in a haunted house that I'm trying to write. So
Abattoir 2.
Let me know if you need some notes.
I might have some questions about escrow.
Okay.
So, if I'm buying a house that has a lot of property, are you going to walk me around the perimeter, or at least give me like a map of what's included in the lot of land that I'm purchasing?
Absolutely.
But it may not be a historical map that shows the Indian burial ground.
However, I think if you walked far enough back on this property that includes fucking mountains, apparently, you'd see that there's a stone staircase leading to a summit with a bunch of graves on it.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
If you're buying 50 acres and a home on 50 acres, I mean, at least you'd want to see what points of interest were there. I don't think that a pet cemetery would just happen upon your knowledge. Oh, does this thing happen to include the pet cemetery?
Oh, and it's
well,
like
yes,
right
in
on
fact,
the
it does.
periphery of their like immediate yard too. It's just like you just
But
kind of
are we getting into the pitfalls of the movie? Or just
we don't want to.
No.
'cause
Okay,
there's so
wait,
many.
maybe
Hold on a
my
second.
least
Hold
favorite.
the
phone. Patrick, as someone who had not been exposed to Pet Sematary before tonight, what did you think of the movie?
Well, let me just comment on what Steven was just saying instead of your broader prompt. Maybe my least favorite thing about the movie was this fucking CGI background when they they're in the pet cemetery, which looks like a real set. It looks like a real forest or whatever. And then they climb the, what do they call the wall? The break.
Deadwood wall,
I don't know, whatever. They climb the wall.
The barrier.
And you get beyond that, and all of a sudden they're just in like CGI heaven.
Right, it's like,
and it looks like shit.
Game of
And you can do that so easily. Like, just find a fucking
location. I didn't even notice that.
I noticed it was
like
CGI.
shit.
It didn't bother me as much as the CGI when the daughter was hit by the car or the truck.
I'm going to say something that's not going to be popular. And let me preface this by saying that I'm a mother of a 10-year-old girl named Ella.
A delightful 10-year-old girl named Ella.
A delightful 10-year-old girl. The victim that we're talking about was a 9-year-old girl named Ellie. So it felt very apropos and very uncomfortable from a parental standpoint, which I tried really hard to separate myself from as I'm watching a fictional movie, and I want to appreciate it for what it is. But I'm going to say something that's going to sound really fucked up. I don't think if she were truly hit by this oil tank that was traveling at like 50 miles per hour,
she'd be in one piece.
She'd be in one piece, and I wasn't prepared to see her in less than one piece. But she looked really good. You know, when they opened the coffin later, I was like, "Come on, man!" Like,
I mean, that's
I'm a monster.
that's all just,
I don't know what to tell you.
That's just a monster.
That's just Hollywood standards, though. I mean, they were not afraid to show the other guy who got hit by the car like spurting blood out his brain.
Right, which
like
I
it's
think
just because
was,
Hollywood still, they're not going to show you a 10-year-old's head split open.
Absolutely. And I think that the guy whose head was split open was sort of a like a substitution for what we're not going to show you later.
Sure.
Right?
Okay, so
Fair enough.
As in the book,
I mean, the staples they show you in the back of her head later are certainly
Chilling, yeah.
they did
Where do those come from?
They did a little from
Did
the
the Wendigo
autopsy?
come
from the
in
Undertaker.
Autopsy, maybe?
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Undertaker.
Yeah, it's from the injuries that she presumably sustained that they won't show you because it's Hollywood and they are not going to show you a fucked up,
Kid.
wounded kid, even in an R-rated movie.
Now in the book, they did a little switcheroo for this movie, which you'll still know because the trailer spoils everything about this movie. But they did a little switcheroo where it's the daughter who gets killed by the truck versus the
son, Gage.
The son Gage, the toddler, gets killed in the book.
It also
Fascinating to
doesn't
me.
matter
And-
because it just turns the son into a MacGuffin.
Right, he's there as a fake out.
Yeah.
Because people who have seen the other movie or read the book are
right.
going to expect the son to die.
But even the trailer spoils that.
Is
The
the
trailer
original movie closer to the book?
Yes.
Okay.
So from what I've read on Wikipedia. So in the book,
Trustworthy
which is all
sources
that
we know.
matters.
Yeah.
when he goes to he exhumes his son's grave, but it's like weeks later, and the kid is like bloated and like decomposing, and he like pulls him out and stuff, and it's like a really fucked up scene. You're like, are they going there? Are they going here? Is this really happening? And then so it's much more tame in this movie, even though the movie seems like it wants to be edgy in other places.
Did you notice that the toddler who plays Gage in the movie that we saw tonight does pretty closely resemble the kid that played Gage in the original movie?
I haven't seen the original movie.
Oh, okay. So that was one thing that I remembered. I don't remember a lot of the details of the original movie, but I remember the kid that played Gage was kind of one of those child star horror kids, And I wish I could think of another movie that he was in, but he has a familiar face. If I were to show you all a Google image of him right now, you'd be like, oh, that kid. But the kid in the movie tonight did closely resemble him, which I thought was, noteworthy, if nothing else.
I did notice that kid gave, and I mean, it's hard to say that a kid that age gave a good performance, but like
did good.
I was surprised by the degree to which
He was
seemed to
compliant.
emote and like deliver lines in a few scenes.
I thought the girl was terrible until she came
What?
back from the dead.
Oh,
She was
great.
adorable.
She was
Unpopular
great.
Good
opinion.
God.
Both before and after.
She was like
thought she
adorable, and I was like, "Oh, it's a kid saying cute things." But like when she came back from the dead, she was actually like sinister and gave a performance.
So
I feel
that
like
is
otherwise she was
actually-
just sort of like
No,
just a
she
very
seemed like a
pandering
real
performance.
child. No, she
Yeah,
seemed like a
well,
real child.
I have one of those, and she's not that compliant, let me tell you. I was looking at a kid like, if I only had that, I would put her in a
Oh my
bubble
God.
surrounded by pillows.
I'm
'cause
sure.
she's
I'm sure if you
perfect.
could like make Ella's day by giving her like this shitty stuffed animal, that would just make your year.
She actually really, really would love that stuffed animal.
Oh,
But
really?
Chris, you had something to say.
The scenes with undead Ellie were good, and those
Yeah.
are the kind of scenes you can't have in the book or in the movie that is based on the book with the toddler, because the toddler is just
Right.
not that
Yeah.
verbal.
Right. Yeah. And actually, maybe that's why they chose to do that. I
Maybe
think is
that's
what
why
you
they
might
chose
be
to do
saying.
it. But then it kind of turns into a creepy kid movie, and there's not really
Well-
any layers to it under that.
And that note, let's give it up. Let's give fucking props and credit where credit's due to these kid actors and all of these movies that we've talked about, Us and Pet Sematary. These kid actors were killing for the
Literally.
job ahead of them. I mean, literally and
Oh,
figuratively.
The kids in Us were
Amazing.
so much
Phenomenal.
better. But I think that just
I would
comes
say
from
better,
like
yeah.
better direction.
They were also
and, like, a
older.
more
They
established.
also had like 5 years on the kids in this movie.
Not Jason.
I don't think so.
Jason was like 8. Okay,
Jason
10.
was younger than Ellie in this movie.
But I think Us was a better developed film than Pet Sematary. I think
Well,
the writing was better.
certainly,
I think
yeah.
the directing was better.
I
so
think like the actors
kids were
probably
just
spent more time
Everything.
together.
Yes,
in prep.
exactly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Anyhow,
I mean, that's apples and oranges.
Well, here's what I'll say about Pet Sematary, the movie 2019. If it's your first exposure, you should read the book.
yeah.
Maybe I'm biased because I've read the book. You should read the book. If you don't want to read the book, and this is your first exposure to Pet Sematary, and you haven't watched the trailer that spoils fucking everything,
Yeah, god damn it. That
get
pisses me off
yourself
so
to the
much.
theater and watch this movie.
And I mean, it is a good trailer in the sense that it's like the movie in 2 minutes.
Well, it's a trend.
It's an effective
I mean,
trailer.
anyone
I hate
who's
this
into
trend of
movies
these
knows
trailers
that trend
lately.
now. It's you see, watch a trailer, it's going to spoil everything.
I was
That's not
like,
how it should be. That's wrong.
I was all on board with the marketing for the new Avengers movie because the first 2 trailers spoiled like nothing. They were very vague. And then all of a sudden, tickets went on sale. They put out a 1-minute trailer that just has all these moments in it that I don't want to fucking see, and I regret watching it.
Yeah. Actually, we've said too much because I mean, just by listening to this, you know that the girl's going to get hit by the
We're
truck.
in the spoiler room.
But
I definitely agree with you. Read the book. I would say always read the book. You know, there were only a couple of times in my life that I've read the book and it hasn't been as good as the movie. And that's so not common. Mm-hmm. But read the book. Absolutely.
Okay, it's been a long time since this has happened, but I have two things to say about this. Best effects in the movie, the cat. The fucking cat, when it comes back, is creepy as fuck. It's a weird looking cat and also is made up, like kind of just looks matted and gross. And it's great. It's a practical effect. It looks great.
Yeah.
The cat is totally catting, in my opinion.
Cat, wait, what do you mean?
It's just catting. Like, that's what I know of cats.
But it's way
evil.
weirder. It's way weirder than the cat before.
I love
it
the cat.
Fair enough.
And there's some like weird like cat ADR to make its like growl sound like a lion.
They had to bring the cat in the booth.
It is very effective. Every time that cat showed up, I was like,
Was it Tonic or
God.
JD that did the voice? What do you think?
Yeah, there's
one cat that just did that voice.
There were
Four
That's how I
cats
got the
credited.
credit.
4 cats credited as Church, and I want to own all of them.
Is that what
I
you guys
do
were
too.
talking about when the movie ended?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you all rambling on about?
I
4
want
of
a
these,
family
2
of
of these.
Cute Maine Coons.
I
That'd
want
be so
none of
fun.
them.
Anyway, what's your other thing to say?
Well, and also, well, this is still part of thing 1.
Okay.
Also loved Ellie. Just like the makeup when she came back was
Her eyes.
so disturbing. Like when she's
you
laying
see
in
her
bed
blue
and
eyes.
kind of
Oh,
like
her
rolling
wanky eye?
rolling her eyes back. It's just it's so creepy.
Yeah.
Okay. My second thing to say is, you know what? I mean, this is such a weird thing to say, but I wish he had fucking killed her with the shovel at the end.
I know.
Because it would have kind of completed the thematic circle.
Yes.
And instead we wind up with this weird, like, okay,
Zombie family.
zombies are coming for the toddler in the car. It just
Well,
felt
right.
very
Fucking stupid.
dull
ending.
And what's
like
the trajectory
we got
of
you,
this?
sucker kind
Right.
of
What's the
ending.
trajectory of this? What are we implying by the
Right.
now
Yeah.
3 zombies that
Nothing.
have efficiently made the undead, the living undead?
The
What are we
family
saying?
that slays together stays together.
We
Wow.
set up some interesting themes with the fact that, the wife wants to believe in an afterlife. The husband is a doctor and is very scientific. And there's all these interesting themes that come up about death and how we deal with it. And there's this question that comes up. Is Ellie actually Ellie, or is she just some, like, spirit? Does she just represent the dad's desire to have done something differently in that situation? And we're just kind of robbed of all that by a violent, just kind of shocker ending.
The
And there's not
endings.
There were plenty of opportunities to, like, I'm sure the filmmakers, like, while they were making it, like, had all these themes in their mind and, like, didn't realize that they actually had to express them on screen. What we get is just a series of bland tropes. for
It's
the most
all
part.
there. It's all in the source material. The
Right.
book has good things to say about grief and the grieving process. The movie goes halfway there in setting it up, especially you have the father who is seemingly pragmatic and he thinks that he's like, you know what, you can't hide death from her forever, honey. But then it turns out that he's more incapable than anybody of actually processing grief and death in a constructive way. And that's all good. And then, they just basically cop out at the end and they're like, zombie family.
Yeah.
Zombie movie.
Very frustrating, especially because the ending of the book, which I told you guys, I won't spoil it on the cast, is chilling and just really hits that theme harder.
And I mean, I enjoyed most of this movie. I was annoyed by how much I felt like I already knew it was happening because of the trailer, but otherwise, I mostly enjoyed it. I didn't think it had a great visual or directorial voice, but I really enjoyed the cast. I thought the performances were great, and I thought the narrative was strong. The themes that it was setting up were strong, and then it just kind of shit the bed in the last few minutes.
I didn't love the husband and wife actors. I'm not going to lie to you.
Really?
Like the wife, I just felt really like, I just can't tell if I like you or not.
Yeah, I felt the same
She
way.
didn't have a lot to do.
Did we need
Amy
that
Simons.
whole subplot about her sister, too?
Well, that
No,
was
that felt-
contrived.
It might
That
work
was
better
never
in the
in the
book,
book.
but-
That was not in the book.
In the
That
book,
felt very ancillary.
in the book, it's there as part of exposition, but I think what happened is the original movie really dramatized that story
Yes.
from the book, and it became kind of iconic because of the first movie's interpretation of it. So
Right.
I think they felt an obligation
It
to
was
bring her back in an overt way.
It
in
was
this
a little
movie.
bit of
It's
filler.
problematic
It was a little
because
bit of filler.
It's making horrifying, like a physically deformed person.
That was weird.
And that was problematic in the original. Like that is like, as a kid, one of the scariest images to me was Zelda in the original Pet Sematary. That was like one of those things that, like, people would like pull out, you know, like sleepovers, like, you gotta see this scene, see this fucked up woman. Like, I remember that as a kid without having seen the whole movie. And
they should have left it at that.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't come back the same.
Because the question is whether you, the viewer, are supposed to feel horror just at the sight of that deformed person, or whether you're supposed to understand that you're processing that through the eyes of the girl, the wife, whatever,
certainly,
and just her misperception of her sister.
Right.
I think those two roles could have been cast differently, and it would have made a whole world of difference, truly.
I think it's the screenplay.
The husband and wife.
Really?
I didn't
all
love
their
them.
moments together are just like bland Hallmark movie moments.
Them.
There's like rarely any dialogue that makes me think like, oh, I really understand this family dynamic, and I'm really like, I want to spend more time with these people. It's all just like obligatory.
There's so many good actors, you know, like, why them?
I totally disagree with that. I understand. So Amy Simons didn't register with me as much, but I thought Jason Clarke was great. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah, he was
stuck to his accent.
It's probably impossible because they've spoiled the whole movie in the trailer, but I would love to watch this movie with people who don't know the story and don't know that kid's gonna get hit by a truck, because I think all that shit and him exhuming the kid and reburying the kid and the kid coming back is really pretty good dramatic shit that would probably blow the minds of people who didn't know it was coming.
Hold on. Do you mean to say, and I know they exist, but I mean, there are a lot of people in this world who are so dumb that they would not register the first 3 truck jump scares in this movie and realize that a kid is going to get hit. Like, that just blows my mind. They telegraph that so early in this movie.
They do, but I think that some people would not realize that the kid was going to get hit.
Yeah, and which kid's going to get hit. And
I didn't know. I read the book, they make
I'm sure that's from the book, right? I mean, I'm sure King vividly describes the truck's past.
The trucks are like, I feel like
he's obsessed with trucks.
I feel like I know
King
the name.
is obsessed with just detail on everything.
Yeah, but especially trucks. I mean, he has like 10 stories about trucks coming to life.
I feel like I know the name of the foreman at the stone quarry that the trucks are coming from. like they really talk about those damn trucks, and then Church dies and you're just like, oh, those damn trucks, and you don't expect the kid to die next.
King needs to write a book called Those Damn Trucks.
They name the trucks. Judd gives the name of the company that's driving by too. Yeah. I'm just like, who fucking cares?
Well, Pet Sematary, go see it or don't. It's up to you.
Read the book.
The only thing left to do is to figure out what we're watching next week. So we got to bring out the old Wheel of Death, because it's about that time again. We get to pick something that we want to watch instead
you're not watching the next one in alphabetical order?
Nope. We are spinning the goddamn wheel.
We could if somebody's really...
Who won last time?
Yeah.
Who won the wheel last time? Patrick?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think Jason X, was our last pick.
Was that? Yeah.
Yeah, so you get to do the honors of spinning the wheel this time.
Okay.
Just give her a spin. All right, it's going. Oh my fucking god! I have never won.
Again.
I have never won, and that came at time I came so close, and it's Patrick again. I think I'm going to rebuild the wheel. I don't think it's a fair wheel. The odds of me losing the Wheel of Death is often, not to have a tantrum, but the odds of me losing the wheel spin that many times is like getting struck by lightning twice. It's insane. Patrick, where are we watching next week?
All right, so I have 2 things to say about this.
You have one pick.
I have 2 things to say about this, though. One, my picks, the 2 that I was trying to choose between were Freddy vs. Jason and Van Helsing. But here's my second thing to say about this. I am deferring this responsibility to Chris because he's wanted to win the Wheel of Death so many times.
But he has to choose between those 2?
And everyone was, no. Well, if he wants to. No, he can just pick whatever he wants. I really want to watch Van Helsing, though. God damn it. It sounds like a piece of shit.
So
I'm so
merciful.
fascinated.
I saw it in theaters.
And
you're going to have to wait a whole 7.5 years until it comes up alphabetically.
Yeah, exactly.
He's so merciful.
Chris, what's your pick?
All right.
Chris has been like avidly browsing Netflix through like the last 20 minutes of recording while we were talking shit about Pet Sematary. He's just like, what's my pick going to be? What is it, Chris?
All right. Well, I'm glad that your picks landed like one of the jokes in the comedian in the Twilight Zone. But Okay, anyway.
That's an awfully shitty thing to say for someone who just got mercifully handed the wheel of death pick this week.
You are incredibly merciful. I'm incredibly humbled that you would defer.
I'm going to tell a
me.
bunch of jokes about you and hope that you disappear now.
I hope you do too, and I hope I do.
Break it up, guys.
You guys might not like my pick any better though, because next time we're watching 47 Meters Down.
I love shark movies. I will be
Wait, is
back.
this the Tobin
You want
Bell
to come back?
Yes.
movie?
No, that's 12 feet deep.
Oh, god damn you.
Sorry.
I wish I was watching
This
Van
is
Helsing.
a shark movie.
I'm regretting my decision already.
47 Meters Down is Mandy Moore on a cage dive that goes horribly wrong.
Wow, I feel like you picked something even shittier than either of my two.
No, I
I've
would
seen
so
it.
much rather see this
I've
than either
seen
of
it,
those.
and it's so good.
In fact, you know,
you've seen it?
I saw.
yeah.
I also saw Freddy vs. Jason in theaters.
Have you seen 47 Meters Down?
No, but I'm just saying, like,
And you're expecting it to be better than Freddy vs. Jason or
both of
Van
your
Helsing.
picks I saw in theaters, and they were even at like what 15 years old, however, they were fucking shitty. I've heard good things about this.
All right.
I'm a shark movie lover.
All right.
It's maybe my second favorite.
What's the Blake Lively shark movie? We're not thinking of that one, are we?
No.
Shallows?
That's the Shallows.
In the shallows.
47 Meters Down is Mandy
Moore.
Yeah, no.
This is a good movie. You guys are in for a treat.
All right. Well, I can't wait.
Well, I hope you can come back.
Yeah, maybe you can come back and we can talk sharks,
If
Allison.
you want me back, I'll be back, you guys.
Jump in the shark tank
In
with
the
us.
shallows.
Don't jump the shark.
All right, guys. Well,
We jumped the shark with episode 000.
We're far from the shallows
All right.
now.
well, I guess that's it. So we'll see you next time. We'll be talking sharks. We'll be talking 47-meter diving. We're going to be having a great time. Until then, for every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Chris.
I'm on the deep end.
I'm Steven.
I'm Allison, who's here sometimes with
All
an
right.
eye. Bye.
Yep. Special, very special guest. All right. See you guys later. Thanks for listening.